Welcome everyone. The topic for the day is confident communications to groups. We will be talking about how to communicate, how to speak, how to correlate, how to build a relationship on a mass level, on a mass scale, on a number of people together at a one single point of time. So let us understand what exactly we mean by the communications to the group and how this particular cycle goes on. So, having an experience, all of us should be having an experience as to how well or how poor we communicate, or what are the environmental circumstances that we are in actually. So, based on that experiences, we decide to react, and this is what we say how to react and how we can be giving positive reactions, negative reaction. When I saying positive or negative reaction, it is displaying of emotions. As in, I agree with you being positive, and I don't agree with you being negative. It's the emotions content connect that we try to build up with the people, with the group, with the team, with the audience that we build around it. So thereby, what are we looking at the end of the day is putting a conclusion in place, and based on our reaction, how does the group, how does the team, how does the person, how does the event play out is what is again a learning experiences. That's another of the experiences which goes on and on. So this is how we review our communication technique. One, how we this is how we refine our communication abilities. Two, so this is what exactly is meant by learning cycle. So this has to go on this way, and it is an innumerable, infinite number of learning and cycle that goes around. Let us understand the spirals of understanding skills thereby. So first and foremost thing, what do? We are a plain state. Our conscious is very clean. We are not aware of anything. It's now this is anybody can jot it down anything on a conscious. If we are in a good environment, positive environment, we'll turn up to be a positive individual, and the other way around too. If it is in a bad vicious environment that we have been brought up along, so we will be vindictive in our nature. So this is what is I call the conscious incompetence, where it is up to the environment to decide upon it, but then as an individual we learn to have an experience. In my previous slide I told you experiences where we gain a certain amount of knowledge, a certain number of amount of skills. Now this is where we build a conscious competence. Please understand, how do we come to understanding the fact of how to grasp a situation, and this is where it leads to an unconscious competence which tells me what is good, what is bad. So I hope I'm clear with you as to how we build upon us understanding skills is concerned. So let us understand what is effective communication. In groups that we talk about it, try to come up with a definition. Now, everybody will have their own understanding of communication, own way of communication. Some people are introvert, even they are communicating by not speaking at all, by not reacting at all. Some people are extrovert, they are also communicating. In fact, they are hyper communicating. They are not only communicating with verbs, with actions, with words, you name it, and they are doing around it. So according to Collins, let's say way back in 2006, it says communication is a noun. It's an exchange of information and ideas and feelings that we talk about it. Something communicated such as a message that is there. Communication means traveling or sending message. It's both an art and a science. This is what we have been drawing about the English dictionary as far as communications is concerned. So let us understand effective communication. We have a sender, a person who speaks or who is emoting, who is displaying, and there is a person who is a receiver out here. Look, basically, he's been speaking from the mouth and he is listening from the ears as such. So, the reality is what? The reality, unlike in my previous slides altogether, it was an easy way, but in reality, you look at it, the information, there are distortions, right? It can be in or at on, whatever it is. It might be it. I'm speaking information, but due to the noises that comes around it, it seems that in or at on kind of scenario. And why, what kind of noises that we are talking around it? It can be a noise in the medium, it can be noise in our thought processes, something where there is some conjunction in the thought out here and there is a different conjunction of thoughts out here, so their interpretation comes changes altogether. So that is what the reality is all about it. And then there is a noise because of the anything that comes around it. It can be the perspective, it can be the circumstance, it can be situation. You look it, you will have it. So everything as in said, intended to be said, might not be received the same fashion. In fact, if you look into it in this particular pic, I have utilized another of an equipment for him to filter, understand, because he is gaining, he is not able to listen everywhere. A glorifying example is where the person is saying with information, but what has been coming or hearing it out because of these noises wherein F, M, and I been obliterated or been removed, it becomes in or at on. So that is what we look like to say around it. Now let us understand the potential influences, why this comes, why this kinds of distortions happen. Number one, it can be the body language, non-verbal communication. Then there is something called language use. Now this is where the lingua franca comes in, which might not be accustomed. Not everybody is accustomed to the situation about the lingua franca. Now this is what we need to understand. Existing knowledge, assumptions, contextualization. Now this is very true. A person has been communicated, been spoken to, but this gentleman who is at the helm of the communication, who is receiving the communication, might be in a crowded place on a mobile, absolutely filled with noises, people are juggling and things like that. So will he or she will be able to hear it properly? And even if he or she is been able to hear properly, would he or she be able to interpret it rightly? Because at the end of the day, the noises, the botheration of the people would be making an unconscious impact onto the person. So this is what contextualization is all about it. Definitely memory comes into a play, attitude, stress, clarity, culture, listening skills and writing skills plays a major role, absolutely a major role, which comes around when in terms of potential influences, influences that might be positive, influences that might be negative, in the sense when I say noises. So let us understand, people use different ways to communicate. One is to write a note, being very clear in black and white as to what you've been telling it. And then there are people who don't communicate, don't speak, don't write, but exhibit by facial expression, show their upset, that they are very upset with the situation or with the person. So communication at the end of the day is absolutely a must thing for all healthy relationships. This is what, even the person might be upset, but that doesn't mean they are undermining the relationship. In fact, the mere fact that they are communicating or the person is saying that she is upset, state that there are better expectation which has not been met as such. So we need to understand, compare the form of communication which might be passive, which might be aggressive or assertive communication. Again, repeat back, communication can be passive, can be aggressive and assertive communication. Develop the communication skill. You need to build healthy relationship. With whom? With your family, with your friends, with your peers, with everyone in the community. In short, demonstrate communication skills which shows respect for self, family, friend, and others. So what does the crux of this particular communication is all about it? It is all about comparing, developing, and demonstrating. So you need to build upon your understanding. You need to build upon and react your reactions and probably prune down your reactions accordingly, and then the desired behavior should be demonstrated time and again. So this is what we need to understand. So basic communication skills, I am very sure it is all about speaking, listening, and body language, the most basic of the things, wherein we speak, we communicate, when we listen, we communicate, wherein the way we speak, the pitch of the voices, the antics that we do with our hands or with our body language or with our faces plays a major role altogether. So communication style, let us understand there are basically three styles. One is passive, second aggressive, and the third one would be assertive. Now, what is passive communication? Look what I've written out here. Passive communication, a person who lets the thing happen as they are happening. They don't change with the tinker with the situation. They go by the flow. They do not stand for themselves. They do not interrupt at all. They are going with the flow, and as long as they are comfortable, they will be there. The moment they become it is unbearable, uncomfortable, or let's say untenable at any point of time, the passive communicators would actually recede at the back. On the other hand, would be an aggressive communicator, just opposite to the passive communicator. They would like to make their voices no opinion known to others. It display their emotion vigorously. This is what we are going through. In case they are, if things are not going their way, they will make it a point that everybody should be aware of that fact. So aggressive communication often try anything from bullying to intimidating to abusing to getting things done probably. And then there are people who are in between passive and aggressive. They know how to make a balance between them. And this is what I call the adult communication or the assertive communication. They know when to defend on their beliefs, when they are on their attitude. They know when to give it away because it is to the situation that they respect and they let it go. So at times they become passive, at times they become aggressive, or in short, we would call them as an assertive communication. They are legible people, adult people, grown-up people who goes around it. Speaking skills, yes, here we go. You demonstrate good speaking skills when you clearly say what you mean, as in yes or no, what and what not. So changes in the tone and the pitch and the loudness of your voice can affect the communication. Use I message can help to communicate your feeling time and again. This is what we are looking at as far as speaking skills are concerned. Stating your feelings effectively. Now, with aggressive messages, what not to say, as in pointing the fingers. You look at the points that I wanted to stress upon it, as in putting all the blame in this gentleman ideas. This should not happen. This is very aggressive. Wherein assertive communication, see what is the situation, they are putting it to the situation. There are no pointing of fingers. Uh, there are no crooked eyebrows. Person has been understood. He is the aggrieved fellow, and probably that is what been told to you specifically. That is what we need to understand between aggressive and assertive behaviors altogether. So listening skills, you can make active listening skills to improve your communication. Remember, active listening involves full attention. Look at this pic that I've given it to you. They are speaking, they are looking at an eye to an eye, they are understanding, they are allowing the other person to speak completely without any interruption before they interject with their responses. So this is what is active listening is. Active listening is not only merely hearing but also understanding the fact that needs to be done. So tips for active listening. Let us first thing, as I've said altogether, make a direct eye connect. This is what we look into. Use body language as signals, as show that you are listening. Never, I repeat, never interrupt, and always have not be biased to the project, to the event, to the person. Put away any prejudices, any images, any assumption that you might be probably nurturing all along. Techniques for active listening is reflective techniques, wherein basically after you have listened everything, just paraphrase those words and repeat. So that means you will be clearly stating as to what you have understood. This helps you in clarifying, asking questions, more fully to understand what are the pain points, what are the issues that needs to be done. Encourage the speaker to tell you that you are being interested, you are being involved. Empathize, imagine, understand how someone else feels together. This is what we are looking at it. Then comes the non-verbal communication. You use your body language. Yes, you nod, you shake your head, you shake your hand, you might agree, you might disagree. This is where you will tell all, communicate with the help of your body only, nothing else. It might be your faces where you show you are frustrated, you might be worried, or you are tensed, things like that. So remember, what happens with non-verbal communication is the listener needs to understand actually what is being said. It is very subtle in nature, and it takes place very unconscious level, at a very unconscious level. And even at times the person who is communicating might not be aware what he or she is communicating. In fact, non-verbal communication at the core gives you the right meaning to the understanding of a perspective or a situation. This is what needs to be done time and again, that we keep on speaking around it. Let us understand the obstacles to clear communication. It is all about image and identity issues, unrealistic expectation, lack of trust, prejudices, and gender stereotyping. When I say gender stereotyping, you will have to understand that female would have certain roles to be done and males has to be done certain role. This is something which is wrong, probably. I am not sure, but probably guessing that smoking is prevalent in both of the genders, but people would object, or people look it down if the female genders are smoking. I do not see the reason why this is wrong, because you are clearly stereotyping, you are clearly getting biased, and there are so many issues apart from this. I just have raised one of the issues. So basically, the images, the identity issue, the unrealistic expectation, the lack of trust, and so on and so forth. So image and identity issues, many teens spends a lot, at least a part of the teen ages, searching for themselves, searching for a place under the sun. They feel lost. This is where they are unsure about his or her identity, her values, and can often, more often than not, complicate the communication process. They fail to understand. So unrealistic expectation is avoiding unrealistic expectation from listeners. Now this is what you need to understand. You might be saying everything, but then you do not understand that everything that you have said will be taken in a matter of fact fashion. Probably not. So be realistic. This may cause the individual to become frustration. If you can have least expectation, probably you will have much more satisfying relationship. But if you have much higher expectation, and when they will not be met, you which will eventually lead to yourself being frustrated. Another thing is a lack of trust, wherein you need to build upon your trust. This is a trust or a habit of confidence on the other person. If you cannot cultivate that, probably this is not going to help you in any fashion. If a person becomes responsible, is seen responsible, is viewed responsible, is understood responsible, probably communicating with such a person would always be fruitful. Did I say prejudices? Yes, it is having, it prevents a people from being objectively ascertaining a situation, assessing a situation. Now, what is happening with objectivity is people get biased. People are often will be coming to a position of the situation or a context with a preformed notion. This should not be there. You should always approach a situation with an open wide. You need to understand the fact that any way the situation might swing, and you should be able to tolerate those wild swings altogether. Being tolerant helps you to understand the different kind of anxiety, the different kind of perspective, the different kind of point of view that people actually possess. I have already spoken about the gender stereotyping. Gender stereotyping is a type of prejudices that is been either been exaggerated or is oversimplified people regarding with respect to their genders. Did I say about smoking? So these are things that goes around it. Believe me or not, how we go around. It is often said that female are supposed to be a better cook, but if you look into it, all the big hotels, for all the big event, it is the men who are actually cooking out there. So how do you gender stereotype them? We talk about constructive criticism is an intended to bring a positive change. You may find that giving a person feedback in a much more positive fashion to help him or her in your relationship. It is very important. Remember, this is what we want to go around it by using the word call or the alphabet called I message is in what exactly is bothering you, how you are going to help it out. Point out to the person what has been done or what is another better way to go around it. Next is expressing yourself. This is one of the things that needs to be understood. But whenever I say express yourself, you don't only have negative emotions to be expressed. You should always amplify. I would rather stress on the word called amplify the positive emotion. What are the positive emotion? Are your respect or your admiration or appreciation. So this needs to be done. You need to reflect this thing in your behaviors, your respects, your admirations, your appreciation, your sincerity. This helps in maintaining a wonderful relationship. It shows that you do not take the relationship for granted. It demonstrates a true spirit of humanity and a good character. So, speaking of this thing, you need to understand what is speaking is all about it. What when you say the word or the alphabet I, when it is being demeaning and defining you, if it is demeaning in the sense you are doing it connoting it with a negative connotation, tell what it is hurting you. If it is defining you, as to tell what is your principle, what is the standards, what is the fact that you believe in. These are the only messages which will tell positively and probably discouraged from letting the situation go out of hand. Prejudices is preventing people from having an open mind. I have already said time and again, it's an unfair opinion that comes around it. We have a preformed notion and that needs to be reflected. Remember about tolerances, you can avoid those prejudices with a certain degree of tolerances that goes around it. A person who is a broad mind with a broad mindset would always try to accommodate all kind of beliefs and viewpoints altogether. Remember, tolerance is the ability to accept others' differences and allow them to be who they are without expressing disapproval. Now we'll talk about the constructive criticism. Remember, it is intended to make positive changes. That is the reason why I have used the word constructive, and critic can always be negative terminologies. So it is yeah, criticism which is non-hostile. It is making you understand, pacifying you the fact that whatever has been done, whatever behaviors has been demonstrated needs to be refined, needs to be done in a particular fashion, which is liked and appreciated by the society, or probably even your negative emotion could have been vented in a different fashion altogether. This is what we call encouraging improvement. This is what is encouraging improvement all about it. Yes, most of the time, people do communicate. People at the end of the fact is not only speaking, but they are also listening. But in the form of listening, they end up hearing only and they do not understand the fact. So I would request all the people out there in the audiences to go for active listening. Pay close attention to what people person is saying and what the person wants to mean actually. try to correlate, try to understand their body language with the word being spoken or the word being written in whatever particular fashion. We come to the fact end of the communication process of the slide. At the end of the day, it's the body language which counts. Remember, I think that is one of the most underexploited areas in communication is body language. But believe me, if you can start reading body language, you will become an excellent communicators all by yourself, and no one uh, can prohibit success from reaching to you. So this is what we are looking at body language. Remember, it's a non-verbal communication. Remember, it's a gesture on your faces that you go around it. Remember, it is the ambivalence of your hands, the movement of your hands, the body, the postures, the angle at which you are sitting or probably leaning will tell everything, as in how interested or disinterested are you in a situation. With this, I come to an end of this video. This will help you to understand what are the confident measures of communications to group of a person and so on and so forth. Thank you very much for watching this video.